Today, I'm going to tell you a story about a lady by the name of Naomi, her daughter-in-law Ruth, and a man named Boaz. And I'm also going to talk about them, but I'm also going to talk about us, because we have a lot of things in common with them. So the way this sermon idea came up, Monday morning, I get up early. I was up about 4:30, and I was drinking coffee, and I went in and sat down in my living room, and I saw a movie I'd never seen, and it was called The Book of Ruth. So I watched it. It was about an hour and a half long. You know, of course, it's a short story in the Bible. And the movie brought me to tears 3 times. And I was just like, wow, I've read this before, but it never, I guess seeing it acted out really touched me. So after it was over, I went online and started Googling who the actors were. And I found a website for the lady that played Ruth. And she had a Facebook page. So I sent a message to her on Facebook, not knowing that she would see it, telling her how much I liked the movie. Well, she immediately wrote me back, like within minutes. She's a pastor in North Alaska. So she probably hadn't gone to bed yet. And I hadn't gotten up, because it's a time difference. But I told her I was going to preach on this Sunday. So her congregation is praying for us at this very minute. So what a great thing that is. This is a good story. And I'm going to tell you the story real quick, then we're going to dive into it. But there was this family that lived in Bethlehem. And it was Ruth, her husband, and her 2 sons. And during that time, of course, agriculture was huge. It was a way to make a living. And Bethlehem was a small town. And they had a famine. So they all packed up. They didn't move to Beverly Hillbillies, like the Beverly Hillbillies, but they moved up and went on foot to another country called Moab. And Moab was about 40 miles away, 40-mile walk through the desert, down on the other side of the Dead Sea. So they walked there. Her 2 sons fell in love with these 2 women from Moab. Now, Ruth and her family, Naomi and her family were Jewish. And the Moabites were heathens. They worshipped other gods. They didn't believe in the God of Israel. And so they get there, and the 2 sons fall in love with these 2 Moabite women. And then tragedy starts hitting. Naomi's husband dies. And back in those days, widows had it pretty rough. They were expected to marry the next of kin, the brother of the husband, if there was one. But they were in Moab. And then her 2 sons died. So the males were the way of support. And then, to make it even worse, famine hit Moab, where they lived. So here we got 3 women. They're all 3 widows living in this little household with no means of support. One tragedy, her husband died. 2nd tragedy, 1st son. 3rd tragedy, 3rd son. And then 4th tragedy, famine and utter poverty. Wow. And can you imagine what they went through? But then the mothers of the 2 daughters were trying to get the daughters to leave Naomi and come back home and just abandon Naomi, because she was basically finished. And Naomi was getting sort of angry at God. Getting sort of angry. Now, have you ever had a tragedy in your life? Have you ever had something big happen that was really rough? How about 2 in a row? 3 3 in a row or 4 in a row. Did you get angry at God? Have you ever shook your fist at God? I know a lot of people that tell me they have, that believe in God, that love God. But sometimes, things happen in our lives and it's sort of hard. It's sort of hard to be happy. Now, of course, I read the Beatitudes a minute ago and it said that those are the people that will be blessed. The ones that are suffering. Just because our lives are going great doesn't mean things are going to be great in God's eyes. We've got to be loyal. Now, so Naomi's starting to get ridiculed living in Moab. She continues to worship God. She shuns these idols. Her 2 daughter-in-laws, Orpah and Ruth, say, "Do you want us to go worship these other gods just in case?" She says, "No, no, no. We can't do that." And so then she gets word that the famine is over in Bethlehem. So it's time to go back home, back to where her family is. So she tells her 2 daughter-in-laws, she says, "Hey, Orpah, hey, Ruth, why don't you just go back to your families? I'm going home. You're still young, you're still beautiful, you can get remarried." And they say, "No, no, no, we're going with you, we love you. We feel obligated to you." So they take off through the desert. They come to a fork in the road, and there's where Naomi gets nasty with them. She says, "Hey, we're at the turning point. It's hot out here. It's dangerous. It's 40 miles through the desert. We're thirsty. It's time for you girls to go back home now. Leave me alone." She was bellyaching. She was whining. She was mad. God's mad at her. So you don't want to hang around me. God's punishing me. How many other people in the Bible have had that happen? How about David? He got angry at God. He was in despair. His 2 sons died. He had constant battles. He saw great loss, loneliness, fear. Elijah got discouraged. He conquered the prophets of Baal, but then Jezebel got after him, so he had to escape. Then we got Jonah. Jonah got angry and wanted to run away. And what about Job? My goodness. Think Naomi had it bad. Job got wiped out, didn't he? Jeremiah was known as the weeping prophet. Never got married. Suffered one thing after another. Then, of course, we got Jesus, too. Deep anguish. The interesting thing that I like talking about what Jesus went through, because Jesus went through weakness and suffering and anguish and despair. And the cool thing about Jesus is he came back as a man, and he's gone through everything we've gone through. Nothing that we face that's bad, he hadn't been there. He understands it all. And he forgives us. He loves us. Now, Naomi gets back home. Well, one of her daughter-in-laws, Orpah, turns around and goes back to Moab. And Ruth says, "No." Ruth says, "No, I'm going back with you." And Ruth says, "No, I'm going to Bethlehem with you." And they get there. And things are prosperous in Bethlehem. And everybody is so glad to see Naomi. And now the word Naomi meant pleasant and delightful. And they were calling her that. They were saying, "Ah, you're back." She says, "Don't be nice to me. Call me bitter. Because I am bitter. I am upset. I am angry. I've been cursed. And they get back in her home's still there. They get back in her home, the home of her late husband. And they're trying to figure out how they're going to survive. So she sends Ruth out into the fields to glean what's left over after the harvest. And fortunately, Ruth ends up in the field of one of her relatives, Boaz. And Boaz was a pillar of the community. He even had a pillar at the temple named after him. Good, righteous, religious man who followed the law. Was good to the workers in his field. Went over and beyond to take care of people. And Ruth must have been a beautiful woman, because Boaz noticed her first day and said, "Who is that? Who is this stranger in my field? Make sure all the other workers stay away from her. Don't harass her. Give her extra grain at the end of the day to take home." He found out that she was the daughter-in-law of Naomi. Then Naomi was a relative. So now he feels really obligated. So this goes on for a while, and she brings home more and more every day to Naomi. And they're starting to get prosperous again. They're starting to feel settled in. They're getting their happiness back in their home. Then they have this big party. And I guess Naomi had a plan. She told Ruth to put on her best clothes, go to the party, wait till Boaz has finished his drinking and his eating and has gone to sleep. And then go lay down beside him, pull his robe off his feet, lay down beside him and pull the robe over yourself. And when he wakes up, he'll get the message. Now, basically what Ruth did was tell Boaz that she wanted to marry him. That was the sign. Covering the feet, the robe off the feet. So she proposed to Boaz. And of course, you know my favorite joke is, what was Boaz before he married Ruth? He was ruthless. Had to get through that. So Boaz says, "Yes, I would love to marry you, but I can't, because there is somebody closer in kin than I am." So Boaz had a plan also. He got the next of kin to come with him to the temple in front of all the elders. And he said, "Hey, we've got Ruth here, who's got some property of Naomi's, and you are next in kin. You've got to take it all." And the next of kin said, "Yes, I'll take the property." He said, "Well, you also have to take Ruth." He says, "Well, I don't want Ruth." So he didn't get the property either. So Boaz got it. Boaz got the property, which he didn't really need, but he got Ruth. And wow, what happens? What happens? You know, all the tragedy they went through ended up, God had a plan. God had a plan. Because out of that union came a son by the name of Obed, who was the father of Jesse, who was the father of David, and an heirline of Jesus. God knew all along what was going to happen. Amazing. So sometimes the unexpected happens in our lives. We can really be suffering. Bad things can happen over and over and over again. But God's got the plan, as long as we keep the faith. Naomi never steered away from worshiping God. She was angry, but she never quit worshiping God. She never worshipped other gods. Ruth was loyal. Ruth believed. God's got purposes in our lives. We just stick to it. Stick to it. We sometimes think that what we believe is best for us, that we don't need God, but we need God. God knows. God knows. I want to end this message with a quick prayer. This is the prayer of Ruth. So let us pray. Oh Lord, I thank you with all my heart. I thank you for your mercy, for your grace, and for a second chance.